Welcome to Applying AI, a webinar from Baird's Global Investment Bank. I'm Simon Pearson, a Managing Director in Baird's Global Tech and Services Investment Banking team. I'll be your host for today. So thanks for joining. Artificial intelligence is a massive topic featuring lots of buzzwords: machine learning, natural language processing, fuzzy logic, and synthetic data. And boards are all getting to grips with these sort of terminologies and trying to understand how best their businesses can apply them. We're also finding that they feature in many business plans as businesses look to use these technologies to underpin better performance and scalability. So earlier this year, we at Baird took a deeper dive into this topic, working with Professor Yves-Alexandre de Montjoye from the Imperial College School of Computing. And we looked at 9 different companies across the globe as how they were using AI in different sectors and different use cases. And we summarized this in our recent paper, An AI State of Mind. So if you haven't read it, please download it. Obviously, if you have read it, great. But as we were conducting this research and socializing some of the findings with our relationships, it was clear there was a huge thirst for more knowledge in this topic. So I'm delighted today in this webinar, Applying AI, to be joined by 3 phenomenal guests, all AI experts, to help share their knowledge and bring some of this technology to life. So I'm joined by Eric Brabaender from Empolis, Siobhan Hanna from TELUS International, and Dr. Shoaib from Visable. And I will shortly ask each of our expert guests to share their background, the companies they're working for, and how they're using AI day to day. And I will delve a little bit deeper into the use cases and the learnings from their experience. And then we'll open it up to Q&A. So if you have questions, fire them through as we go. But to kick things off, I'm going to turn to Eric. And if maybe you could give a bit of background on yourself, what Empolis is up to, and how you're using AI with your customers, that would be great. Over to you, Eric.
Thanks, Simon. Of course, I'm more than happy to do that and happy to be here today. So first of all, introduce myself. My name is Eric Brabaender, Chief Product Officer and member of the board at Empolis. Empolis is a Germany-based company that uses different AI capabilities to provide overall enterprise software as a service products for, as we call it, intelligent decision support solutions that are, on the one side, data-driven, modular, scalable, and we enable machines to recommend the right decision instantly. So our motto is decide right now, as we want to deliver all relevant information that empowers our users to answer complex questions faster and to make the right decisions based on, as we call it, knowledge computing and AI. So what our core challenge throughout the 3-4 last years was the transformation of our company from a technology provider delivering large projects based on our own AI and other AI capabilities for a few customers into, as we have it today, a scalable market-driven organization that provides standardized and scalable use cases as a SaaS product to customers. And we have 3 SaaS products today. One is Service Express, Content Express, and Knowledge Express, which are using, as Simon already mentioned, different AI capabilities. So we use machine learning for understanding machine data, doing predictions of machines. We use also NLP for understanding a lot of textual data. And finally, we use knowledge graphs to connect all the things. And that is provided by a standard use case to our customers. So that's basically the core information about Empolis today.
Thanks, Eric. So maybe I'll just switch across to Siobhan. Maybe you could do the same if you could share some background about yourself, about TELUS, and then how you're using AI day to day.
Hello, and thank you for having me on today's webinar. My name is Siobhan Hanna. I am the co-founder and managing director at TELUS International AI. We consider ourselves a global leader in providing high-quality, human-enriched data and data solutions for machine learning, and that includes data labeling, data generation, and search relevance. So obviously, AI and AI-powered technologies are ubiquitous, and where we come in is that in order to function effectively and to differentiate your AI products and to evolve your technologies, high-quality data sets are needed to power them. It's the data that is actually, we believe, foundational, actually, rather than necessarily the code. All AI needs high-quality training data to function, and the need and the demand for that high-quality data and the quality piece is really essential, and I know we'll talk about that today. That need is essentially infinite. So our training data solutions kind of focus on this idea that artificial intelligence requires human intelligence to function. And so using our platform, which is really both our labeling and data generation tooling, plus our global community of over 1 million analysts and contributors around the world to enrich that data with essential insights to train AI, we do that for hundreds of customers across many different industries. And that includes, of course, big tech, but also automotive, autonomous vehicles, e-commerce, social media, fintech, and other industries as well. And then you mentioned it earlier, Simon, but our team merged with TELUS International. We were formerly Lionbridge AI in January of last year. More broadly, TELUS International itself designs and builds and kind of delivers next generation digital solutions. Those include, of course, our AI solutions, but also content moderation, to really just focus on enhancing the customer experience and to deliver better business outcomes for global brands. So, again, I mentioned it, but, there's really no AI without human intelligence. Of course, we build and we use our own annotation and data generation tooling, but our tooling itself is AI assisted. The thing is that the process of generating and enriching training data is really kind of a garbage in, garbage out proposition. That process of generating and building high quality training data is a very exhaustive process. We have numerous opportunities in our own work to augment our workflows with AI. And that could be, intelligent pre-annotation, effective capacity modeling, quality indexing, and so on. But just briefly, typical use cases and service areas that we focus on, computer vision is one. Of course, that's the field of helping computers to understand and take actions from image or video data. It's essential to so much of what we interact every day, but that includes autonomous vehicles, retail, healthcare, agri-tech. Relevance, that's about training search and ads and mapping technology and other algorithms to provide accurate, intuitive, high-quality results. And then I think you mentioned it earlier, natural language processing. And of course, that's about how computers and language interact to deliver an intuitive experience in any language. And then I think a topic that we might touch on today, what about when the base data set required for training deep learning algorithms doesn't yet exist and isn't available to ML team? So that's data scarcity or sparseness, which is a huge challenge. We also offer high quality solutions for generating or creating that data. And then just finally, the work we do is really across industries. So I mentioned big tech, retail, health, security, defense, agriculture, fintech. So thank you. Looking forward to diving in.
Great. Great description of some of the technologies that we're going to talk about today. So really helpful. And some of them are super relevant to the work that Dr. Shoaib is also doing. So maybe Dr. Shoaib, if you could share a bit on your background and what Visable is doing and a little bit about how you're applying AI in your sphere.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Simon. So personally, I have basically my background is in AI, in applied machine learning. So I have a PhD in that. And at Visable, I lead the data science for AI initiatives across the organizations to solve basically different problems. Visable is kind of a big or leading B2B marketplace in Europe. So we have different platforms. One kind of mainly focuses on German-speaking areas, so DACH, and the other one is across multiple European countries. And the goal is basically to connect B2B purchasers with B2B suppliers. So if somebody is looking for something really customized or high-risk machines, they can find those relevant suppliers on our platform. And it's usually a bit different than B2C because It's not just click a button and buy something, but there are lots of steps involved. So that's what kind of Visable does, and it kind of is proud to be leading that kind of area. And then within, like we are a pretty young AI team, so 2-3 years. So we tackle basically classical problems around AI within an organization. So it's about how to automate content creation process, or cleaning it, or structuring it. At the same time, deduplication. So for example, we have thousands of customers that we don't have duplicate records, and then we have millions of suppliers on our platform, so we don't have duplicate records, which is very difficult to do manually. Then we also have like the classical that we have customers, so we want to see, okay, that if they're churning, why they are churning, how we can stop them, how we can retain them. And of course, we have a search engine, so we have to use ontology and taxonomy, which needs to be very kind of, what we call context aware. So we have to have that taxonomy in the language of what we call our purchasers and suppliers, where AI kind of comes in. So probably we will talk about those topics, but that's how we use AI in Visable.
Fantastic. Look, so we've got a really broad array of talents and experiences to bring to bear here. So that's phenomenal. Maybe just to sort of get us going into sort of looking at some of the practical constraints and challenges of using AI. And, obviously, we've already touched on it, I think, from each of you, the quality of data and trying to, AI is nothing without the source data. So I think it may be useful just to expand a little bit more on that. And maybe I'll go to you first, Siobhan, just to give you a warning. When you look at the quality of data, what are some of the most frequently encountered challenges that you have that you need to kind of help clients and customers put right?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think, the biggest challenge is generally data quality is one of them, and then data bias would be the other kind of global central challenge. And both are complex to tackle. So our central focus is on data quality because, as you mentioned, when it comes to training ML algorithms, it is all about the quality of the data you're using to train those systems. You are the data you eat, and better data means better AI. So, a large amount of the work we do is in that very nuanced, complex relevance work where, our solutions are focused on enriching data so that we can help our customers to refine accuracy and intuitiveness and human-like behavior and superior user experience in search and ads functions or natural language processing. But the data itself does not always exist as needed, and that is where kind of data sparseness comes in. And so, especially for industries that are less digitized. So when that data does not exist, we will frequently, and this is a high growth part of our business, we will help our customers by generating that data. And de-biased data is really essential, and this is where responsible and ethical AI also comes in to help ML models work properly. So oftentimes practitioners will need to undertake collecting or generating the base data set. That's, as I mentioned, the fastest growing part of the business. This could be location data, it could be audio data across any language or accent or dialect to help, for example, train virtual assistants in recognition or conversational capabilities. It could be image or video data. So I'd say data availability along with high quality data itself. Speaking of high quality, since that's what you asked about, we really focused about 15 years ago on trying to anticipate and build solutions for that challenge. So how we get at that is making sure that the community of analysts and contributors that we deploy on enriching data are well-trained, that they're experienced, that they're supported with really strong AI-assisted workflows and technologies, and that we're validating the outcomes of the data that we enrich and deliver for our customers. And there are numerous different ways we do that across the various service lines. Happy to double click on that further if you'd like.
Yeah, just maybe pick up one topic, which is I think increasingly people are becoming aware of, is the bias in the data. So just maybe expand on what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's critical that the data that is being used to train AI is representative of users. To give a very relatable example, in the medical field, AI is being used for early detection and diagnostics, for example. And let's say we take skin cancer as an example. If that AI is trained by white skin tones overwhelmingly, it will simply not function as effectively on skin tones. And so that's a very dangerous, extreme example of bias at work. But, really there is unconscious bias. We can't possibly remove all bias from data. But where we really focus on is making sure that the contributors that focus on our data, our training data solutions, are representative, that we are representing all demographics, genders, socioeconomic status, geodiversity. Of course, skin tones for anything computer vision is very, very important also. And so it's really just as the quality is influenced of your product is influenced by the training data that is aligning it. So the contributors working on that enrichment need to be equally representative and maximally debiased.
Really helpful, super. So maybe I'm just going to switch this across to Eric. Obviously, Empolis, a lot of your customers were or are industrial or sort of in the sort of industrial tech world. Talk, maybe expand on some of the challenges to get data quality in a more of a machine world. I know we talked about computer vision with Siobhan, but maybe in other areas where you've got IoT data or other forms of data coming through. What are some of the quality issues that you face?
Regarding the quality issues, so what we use is different kind of data in our product. So, for example, if looking at Service Express, which helps to monitor and predict the behavior of the machines of our customers. So this is a solution, as you just said, especially for the industry of machinery and plant engineering. It generates, or it uses a lot of machine data and understands and predicts what might be a future problem with that machine, and creates a so-called issue where then a service engineer or someone at the hotline of the provider can immediately react and provide new spare parts, new services and stuff like that, but probably as an additional business model. So the point is, first of all, we don't need only to understand the machine data. We also have a lot of knowledge-related data, which is not available as data. So it is in formal texts, it is in informal texts, it is in unstructured environments, and so we have a different kind of quality in each asset that we use to understand and to build our solution. And if we look at the machine data first, so here we also see that you often get the good information. So engineers are building machines in a way that they have a high uptime, and of course we get a lot of positive data, and we don't have typically a lot of failure data. So when we train the data and when we look at the data, I really have to see which kind of information can we use to get the right training model. And sometimes we even don't use only machine learning models to solve the problem in the same way. Another point is that this data is not easy to get. So sometimes you have to create edge solutions to gather the data at the point where the machines are, consolidate the data, and then bring it back into our systems. You can't only work here with a cloud-based solution, often, as you have a huge amount of data to be transferred. So there is, of course, a high impact on what kind of quality data we get. And then if we want to get the bridge to what the machine says, what the problem can be. We also had to understand all the information that is available that is typically spread all over the company. So we have installation manuals, we have maintenance manuals, we have product documentations, we have IT systems, service bulletins, service tickets, or it's even in the head of the experts. So what we have to get is all this information into, let's say, into our pool, where we then analyze the relations between all the information to find the right solution. And that's also keeps us not only to analyze the machine data that we can get out of the IoT systems, but also to connect it with systems or with semantic search and other systems like that.
So you're really having to sort of put all the information together, put the right relations, the right context together to kind of really make sense of it. So, I think most people will be getting the data and how it lives and where it comes from, and is it of the right quality is a key feature here. So maybe Dr. Shoaib, just to sort of round us out on this, obviously you've re-engineered a lot of the processes in your business over the last 12 months or so. How did what were the issues you had with data quality, and how did you go about solving those and potentially enriching the data that you were able to easily get and then kind of enrich it?
Yeah, so basically, it's kind of a well-known fact that it's extremely difficult to get high-quality data, and sometimes you know how to get it, but it's extremely costly. So at the end of the day, you have to build a solution where actually the costs are lower than the value it brings. That's a really simple way to go about it. So for that, actually, really basic thing for lots of small and medium-sized organization is also the awareness around data, that a lot of the time the data is available, but it's not tracked properly, or people don't know that what could be potential use cases. So that awareness is super important. We have seen it at Visable, and I think the same issue will be across lots of small and medium organization, where you have some kind of AI awareness within the organization where you could potentially, maybe you don't have a use case for it now, but to store proper data in a proper way where you have labels, because we are doing a lot of things manually. So we have kind of free, label data, but if we store it properly. And a classical example is also customers related, customer prediction, customer leads, customer retention. We do contact, there are salespeople contacting them, but you have to kind of keep track of that. Who is contacting who, why they accepted, why they became more customers, why they didn't become more customers, and then you can use this information. But one classical example around, for example, we had to create taxonomy or ontology, right? Manually, and we had to create it in the language of our own customers, so our purchasers and suppliers, which means creating this taxonomy in just typical language, it's a bit tricky. You have to use the same words which are B2B specific and which are industry specific, and we work across 64 industries. You can hire lots of ontologists or taxonomists, but it will be really challenging. So what we did, and of course getting high quality data there, what we did is that the way we used AI, what we call human in the loop. So we just assisted our team, and which it would have been actually impossible without AI. So we had to go through millions of web pages, which consist of Spanish, German, French, English, whatever. And we were mainly initially concerned about German. So we used AI to basically pick the German. We used AI to pick important stuff, keywords or phrases around these 64 industries, and then cluster them, which is again AI. So AI clustering using natural language processing, pre-trained models. This is kind of the new recent advances which allow us to do that. And we would make not a perfect, but kind of a condensed form of information in a structured way. And then that's presented to the human. So it makes their life really easy. And of course, the high quality, then it's less costly for us. And then they would just go through it and kind of just clean it up a little bit. So that would be one really good example where just in a manual way, that's impossible to do for a human to go through so much data and then basically clean it up.
Got it. So I think really kind of gives a whole variety of different contexts of how data is so important, and you can be smart about how you do it. You can be smart about how you clean it. you've got to be aware of the challenges and the constraints that it gives you. But I think to pick up a phrase you used earlier, Siobhan, there is no AI without good data. So getting to the best data start point you can is fundamental to applying AI. So maybe if we just take it on another level, if you can sort of talk about, and maybe I'm going to go to Eric first. When you talk about sort of use cases, so we've got into the nitty gritty of like no good data, no AI. But if the data's good, what are some of the benefits of it being able to apply AI for particular use cases? So maybe, Eric, can you just pick out one use case that you've done for one of your customers where it really brought significant benefits to light?
I mean, the benefits on the client side are very basically, we are very fast in implementing a solution in would say days or weeks, where a customer would need to establish it in months or even years. And that's based on AI. So what we're doing is we are as I just said, we are analyzing all this data that is available. But one of the key points is that we generate an understanding of each industries or machines relations. So we use a semantic knowledge graph on that, which generates a kind of a digital twin model, a semantical digital twin model of typical machines. And so what we generate is in a special industry, knowledge about the industry and the relations of the machine. So if you look at heating industry, of robotics industries, and so on, it's a very similar kind of machines. And as we just heard, it's also important that you have an ontology and a semantic understanding, because service technicians are also not always talking the same language than the end customer, than the hotline employee, or than the engineer who builds up the machine. And based on that, we built, first of all, a common digital semantic model of the area where we work on. And over the time, we made it that in dedicated industries, like I mentioned already, robotics, heating industries, and so on, and construction machinery, we created a model and build up data on that industry that helps our customer success managers to onboard these customers within days or within weeks, which means we just get their information, their data, and can easily showcase our value to them. So typically I say with AI and a standard product on AI as we provide, it's not a project, it's a standardized use case. You want to prove that you can find a needle in the haystack. So to prove this in a B2B journey of our customer, we first have to have a haystack to show them that we can find a needle with our intelligent capabilities. And that's what we're doing. So we are creating a knowledge graph-based model on customers in industry. And then with this data, the system learns more and more, and we get faster in implementing our solution. And that's basically, I think that's a quite good example on how AI can help you to get faster.
It's a great example. And it also, I think, highlights that to be really effective in deploying AI, you have to have quite a deep domain knowledge, whether you're building up a taxonomy or you're restricting your focus to a particular, for that particular deployment, you need to put some boundaries around scope of what you're trying to do. So maybe just building on that, Siobhan, if you could talk about a use case where I think one of the things we were talking about earlier was types of content challenge, maybe not computer vision, but if you maybe can think about other types of content where you've got you've been able to sort of work in a tightly defined way to deliver real benefits around quality of content and delivery of content.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a fascinating topic. So, I mean, obviously, we're all interacting with the most effective, foundational, everyday AI technologies, and we all are positively impacted by quality and superior functionality. So that could be, interacting with Siri or Alexa assistants to make our lives easier, and using really outstanding, elegant search to kind of streamline our online shopping, having a very intuitive driving experience. So we at TELUS International, we've been lucky to be involved with a lot of those sorts of initiatives. And I think also underneath those obvious instances that we're all interacting with directly, and naturally we're all benefiting in business from effective AI insights to inform our business decisions. And I think we just talked together about a couple of those examples. I think maybe one of the most rewarding areas that we've been engaged in is the accessibility space. So that is helping to make sort of AI-assisted products as usable and helpful for example, the visually impaired or hearing impaired community. So we have done quite a bit of work in terms of data collection and creation and augmentation with some of our key big tech customers to, for example, create, sort of data sets, actually probably an obvious use case is captioning photographs and images and videos to make them maximally relevant and usable for the visually impaired. So that's, again, elegant product experiences are wonderful, but I think we're really just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what technology and AI can do to, sort of improve product reach, but also improve and democratize product access. So I think, accessibility is an emerging space, and, I think, sort of everyone has some example of it, but that's possibly one of the more rewarding use cases for our team.
Great. So just rounding out on sort of ways of using AI and sort of just bringing the benefits to life. You talked about this a little bit earlier, Dr. Shoaib, in terms of your ability to use AI to really re-engineer some of the processes that you use to drive search. Maybe you just expand on that in terms of what the time benefits to doing that were and what the richness of response for your business were. So just, I don't know if there's a way to kind of put a bit more quantification around that.
Yeah, sure. So initially, I think the estimates kind of when we were looking at creating ontology or taxonomy for all these different industries, especially which can be scaled to multiple different languages, I think the even rough idea was it will take a couple of years if you have to just do it manually through experts, right? It took us around 6 months with like one expert and a couple of just working students. So who would, we have interns who would help them, but everything, the cool part was actually that you can, especially with like clustering, that we would provide them so many fine-grained clusters that if they see something interesting, they can just go and see what are the relevant stuff around it and then make the relationships. The relationships have to be done by the expert. That's where AI still lacks stuff. But it can generally cluster it. So there was significant actually time improvement. Like in 6 months, we could actually put it in production in our search, and our search is using it. And then it's basically, there are like millions of visits which uses that kind of information. But regarding AI use case, which could be pretty cool, which we're just working on, and it's just personally very exciting for me because we get requests in multiple languages. This is an exciting area that if we could somehow communicate with each other without this language barrier, that would be amazing. So sometimes most of the German suppliers, they're pretty good at producing machinery, and Eric would know, and a lot of like the machine stuff, Germany is really good at. And the purchasers can come from lots of different parts of the world, so they speak different languages. And usually when they send us, one they search, one of our product is search, but another one is where they can send us personalized requests and we can connect them with relevant supplier, which we do through AI a little bit. But one of the challenge was, what if the request is coming in, I don't know, Spanish, and the provider has their website and content in German? Or what if it's coming in French or Arabic or some other language? To do without manual translation, this kind of cross-language, that's what we are. And we had seen promising results. So a message can come in Spanish and you can connect it with, based on content. I guess they still have to talk in a common language, but basically making the connection, that's pretty cool. So we are really excited about that as well. And it shows the strength of AI too.
Yeah, phenomenal. So look, I'm just conscious of time. We've still got maybe one main topic to cover, which is just skills, right? So we talked about the need for human in the loop. We talked about ability to sort of oversee the data, make sure it's not biased. We need to sort of use some of the models that are available, and that all requires people who've got the right skills. So maybe just share some perspectives on, what role does M&A have in solving some of those skill issues? And then I know both Eric and Siobhan, you've got background that's relevant here, and obviously just to put the balance in the arguments, Dr. Shoaib, you've built a team more organically, so it's just interesting to sort of get the perspectives on the benefits of doing something using M&A to kind of address capability, and then maybe just the balance. So maybe we'll go to you first, Siobhan, and then we just try and keep these relatively brief because we need to have space for a few questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are in, obviously, the talent solution space, given that we focus on human-in-the-loop solutions. And so we understand acutely how important it is to, attract and maintain a diverse community of contributors. So we have over 1 million contributors in about 280 unique locales around the world. And what we're thrilled about is that it's a highly representative community, and we're able to make great diversity of opportunities available to largely working from home, sort of remote digital workers. So slightly different space to those that are, competing for ML engineers and data science, talent, of course. And, sort of for us, it's really much more about making sure that we are, sort of attracting all of the profiles that are needed for that diversity of service areas that we focus on in terms of annotation, natural language. Of course, computational linguists are also well represented in our community of contributors, and that we are representing all of the languages that our customers are seeking to reach and engage with their users in. So our challenges are a little different, but they are still challenges, and we still need to work hard on making our work interesting, differentiated, thinking about things like work-life balance and experience of our contributors. And then M&A, yes, sort of near and dear to my heart. So I think we spoke about this the other day, but my organization, formerly Langbridge AI, was acquired at the end of December 2020. It's been a wonderful experience to become part of the TELUS International family. And then subsequently, in the middle of last year, my team actually completed our own sort of tuck-in acquisition of a startup out of Bangalore, India, Playment, which is a computer vision platform startup. So we've really been in M&A and integration land for some time. And, in our case, obviously, really what we were looking to do was bolster our complement. And I think TELUS International was seeking to do the same thing, bolster native capabilities and complement them to sort of enhance how our customers engage with TI. So it's been a great experience. No immediate plans at the moment, but definitely continuing to look at adjacent capabilities, new locales. For us, it's often about, sort of making sure that we have diverse opportunities to support complexity around data privacy, data sensitivity, use case sensitivity, and then just, again, accessing the talent that is needed to enrich the data in the use cases that we're engaged with.
So you've been on both sides of the acquisition experience, being acquired and doing the acquiring, and all the integration joys that go with that. Eric, you've been in the same, although probably very recently on the acquired side, but maybe talk about the capabilities you added into Empolis when you made an acquisition a couple of years ago.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, we identified based on our product vision and where we want to go that we also have a knowledge gap if it comes to creating semantic knowledge graphs to build up this kind of solution. And as always, as a product manager, you have to ask yourself, build by or partner. So building up these skills and a full stack solution that we would need here was quite challenging. And so we had the chance that we have been working also with a partner for a while that we acquired a company named Intelligent Views, and they were highly specialized on knowledge graphs and analytics based on semantic knowledge graphs. And so we identified this as a cool target to get on the other side also a lot of new skills, but also enhance immediately our solution with new features, with new capabilities that really now helps our customers to be much more faster and efficient. The example was already given by creating these industry knowledge packs that we're using for faster onboarding. And so this was a great experience, how we can easily speed up, get faster products into the market and provide more value to our customers.
Fantastic. So just to give it a little bit of balance, obviously I'm in the M&A game, so I like M&A as a potential solution, but I recognize that you do have to go through that buy, build, or partner piece that you just referenced, Eric. But so, Dr. Shoaib, you've incubated a team within Visable. Just maybe talk about the sort of philosophy of how you built up your capability.
Yeah, sure. So Visable, actually, Visable acquired other companies, but it was in B2B space, so it not in AI. So I think where it makes sense and it's urgent and you have competition, then you have to do it. But for lots of small and medium companies, probably they are going to either buy AI services where they need it to fix a solution, or they have to slowly build it. So we was in Visable as well, because first you need to identify, you need to create awareness within the organization so people know how they can use AI, and then start slow in an organic way. So that's how we actually started with a very small team, and we are slowly growing, where we slowly kind of create awareness among different teams so they can come to us with their problems, with their pain points, which we can solve. And probably that would be the recommended way for lots of small and medium-sized organization, unless you have, like the way Eric described, that something is urgent, something needs to be done quickly, and you don't have the skills and you can afford it, then go M&A.
Excellent. So look, we've covered some of the three main topics we were looking to cover. There are some questions coming in. Actually, I potentially am going to go with one of the questions here. I think it's quite a good one. So, yeah, again, this to try and be brief, I think in the answers, we've only got a limited amount of time. So one of the questions is, how does AI and digital transformation differ? So maybe I'll go to Siobhan first, but try and keep it short because I think we want to answer a couple more questions.
Well, it's a great question. I think at TI we're engaged in, so we consider ourselves a kind of next generation digital solution company. So we're engaged in both. I think my view is, I mentioned that I think we're at the tip of the iceberg in terms of AI adoption. And my view would be that, they differ today, but they are becoming closer and closer together because AI is infusing everything that we do. And that's my story, and I'll stick to it.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just going to take two answers to this one because I'm going to squeeze some more questions in. So maybe Dr. Shoaib, you on difference between digital transformation and AI?
Yeah, so for me, actually, AI is kind of a sub part of the whole digital transformation. And the only difference in my sense is that it will be relatively difficult, like depending on which country. So in Germany as well, sometimes digital transformation takes longer, depending on the culture and everything. US, China is way ahead. So the same way it's with AI, it will take a bit longer. It will be, it's change. So for me, the main difference is it's a subpart of digital transformation, and it might be a bit more tricky because it does have all ethical kind of aspects to it as well.
Okay, so another question we have is on maybe think about the regulatory and ethical issues and frameworks that we may see coming down the track. So maybe take this one to Eric. As AI improves, what are some of the regulatory issues that you can see coming?
So as I'm a German, I can't stand to say nothing about it. I would really say what you just said is so perfect. Digital transformation in Germany means to digitize processes that are already there. But if you really want to do a digital transformation, then The transformation is the engine, and AI, the data-driven stuff, that's the fuel that you get into it, so, or the oil that it works. So that's my thing on that, and that leads directly to the regulations, because we have a different kind of regulation in Europe than we have in China, than we have in the US, which makes it, on the one side, somehow trustful in Europe, but sometimes also very complex to use the data that you want to use. And the part where I can look into it, as we are not into B2C AI, but more into B2B, a question that we see here is often our customers are using our products, our bots, our AI bots, to analyze the machine data and to create a business model out of it. But if that machine is in the production of their customers, so who owns the data finally? Are they allowed to use the data from the production of their customers to train the models that they use for new business models? So this is clearly something that can be better regulated in the future, because this is still different in different industries. So in some industries, it is absolutely okay to use data. Other customers don't want to get these data out of their production because, of course, you can do competitive analysis or stuff like that. So this is something, is one example on how the regulations can be more sharpened to get more value out of these data usage.
And maybe, Siobhan, if you happy to add on that, or I can go to Dr. Shoaib, your choice.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would concur. So, sort of complexity around data privacy concerns, that landscape is obviously only becoming more complex, and we do interact with and help to transform PII-rich data very frequently. Obviously, we're all aware that the reason virtual assistants perform historically as successfully as they do is because, they were trained on recordings. And so these are complex challenges, and it's about balancing those complexities and those challenges and considerations with continuing to advance the technology. And then, of course, there's all things related to ethics of, debiasing data, and all of the contributors behind the scenes that, sort of are powering the effective training. So we're heavily focused in all of those areas, and I see that only becoming more complex.
Maybe Dr. Shoaib, just to round us out, any additional perspectives on sort of regulation or sort of the ethical frameworks we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, so I think I will talk very specific on a technical side, like for data scientists and AI engineers, because the rest Siobhan and Eric described, so regulation. But we as data scientists or AI engineers or researchers, we have also the responsibility when we're building solutions, because not all biases are so visible or clear. So we think about it. We take that into account, whatever I'm building, because it's going to be kind of an automated solution. Does it have any bias in it? Or if it is, how we resolve it? Because that's like the basic thing. AI is anyway kind of a bit black box. There is a lot of hype and uncertainty around it. So then this makes it even more complex, bias. It's not always visible. So I would want to be that we have awareness around it.
Fantastic. Just going to I've got time maybe for one more question. So this has come through. I mean, obviously, the democratization of data science and the ability to use sort of pre-configured or pre-off-the-shelf models for training data certainly was not a topic I was aware of until we started doing some of this deep dive. And actually, the cost of these models is very, very efficient. So, relative to maybe where we were 5-10 years ago, these models are super interesting and super valuable. But just give some practical context for this. Maybe I'll go to you first, Dr. Shoaib. In terms of like the volume of data that you need to use some of these off-the-shelf models, what sort of, put some boundaries on that. Try and make that come to life for people listening in.
Yeah, so I think that's like one of the amazing advancement in the recent, actually 2-3 years, I would say. The amount of data, it really depends on the context, because out of these models, what we call, you have zero short learning and fewer short learning, where you don't actually need any data at all. You just use it off the shelf. or the way we used it, like to just understand the language, you don't need any data. Maybe you have to tune it according to your use cases, but that will be like, very small amount of data. So it has kind of resolved that kind of challenge to some extent. If you want to train your own model from the scratch, then that's expensive. That requires a lot of data. And you have to take care of all the biases and that aspects as well, because then you are responsible for it. So for me, just to summarize it, even that companies should be aware, teams should be aware of all these advancements, because it has made a lot of things possible in the last actually 2-3 years, which were not possible before.
And maybe just for the audience, elaborate on what, who's providing those models, how easy are they to access, where do you go to get them, what skills do you need to have? And maybe I can take that to you and then go to Siobhan as well.
Yeah, sure. So basically, like one of the most popular kid on the block is Hugging Face, where you can find thousands of models across basically any language. And it's an amazing, because they want to democratize AI. So a lot of people, actually, a lot of researchers, companies like Google, Facebook, they put their pre-trained models there, and you can just use it off the shelf. So I would advise anybody who are interested in this topic to just go there, and then you can pick based on which language, what kind of task you are interested in, and you can filter it out. They have a search engine.
Maybe Siobhan, anything to add on the prevalence of pre-trained models, and also which of those do you find particularly useful, or which do you think are the most accessible?
No, absolutely. I agree with Dr. Shoaib. Very exciting times in terms of advancement and the opportunities, scale of access to off-the-shelf data sets. I think where we tend to focus more is the bespoke, complex data set needs, and computer vision is a huge focus for us, and that's of course why we augmented our practice by merging with the Playment team, and really, in these highly complex use cases where, for example, human safety is a consideration and it's a key outcome, clearly I have a great deal of respect for, sort of the expansion and the opportunities represented by unsupervised and off-the-shelf data sets. But in those more complex, specific, bespoke use cases, we're really focused on, it goes back to our original topic of data quality, safety, iterative quality models, and, sort of getting the base data right. So I think there is room for all of it, and that the demand is so extensively insatiable that, we will need to continue to see growth in that off-the-shelf availability, curated, bespoke, collected to, to spec, and then, every type of data transformation and enrichment also, particularly as reach expands, and we're expecting more intuitive experiences from the data that we're using to train, more local insights, etc. And that's really where we come in, and why we really try to focus, not just on the top 10 locales, but, sort of a very broad reach. Yeah.
Got it. So I think we're pretty much out of time. I think we've answered some of the questions that come through. Like, I think it's been a fantastic conversation, very rich, very deep. Obviously, there'll probably be a ton of questions that people might have out there who've managed to stream in. Please fire them through if they come to you afterwards. Only the final thing to say is thank you so much for all of you presenting today. So Eric, Siobhan, Dr. Shoaib, thank you so much on behalf of Baird. And if any of the audience want to ask any further questions, then please feed them through to me or my team, and we'll try and ensure they get answered. So thank you everybody for joining today, and look forward to maybe hosting another one of these, because it's a massive topic and there's a lot more to cover.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
everybody.